Hi and welcome to my channel Rainier Books. My name is Rainer and I am based in the Nobel city of Stockholm, Sweden in Northern Europe. These days are filled with speculations and predictions for long lists, and soon we will get two more amazing, beautiful long lists that will dominate many people's reading for weeks and even months to come. I already delivered my prediction video for the Women's Prize for Fiction, which I will link down below if you haven't seen the video. The even more prestigious Booker Prize, the even more prestigious Booker Foundation, it hosts 2 awards per year actually. In the second half of the year it is dedicated completely to the Booker Prize for works in English, but the first is dedicated to the International Booker for works in translation into the English language. This prize, this award, is for living authors whose works were or are first published in the United Kingdom and in Ireland by a United Kingdom or Irish publishing house or imprint between May the 1st, 2024 and April the 30th in 2025. So the books might be published in the weeks to come as well. The original version of these works can be older. They can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, as long as the author is alive. The Booker Foundation loves to make a joke about the Booker dozen, which usually consists of 13 instead of the normal 12 definition. That must be English humor. And without any further ado, I start my prediction for this year's International Booker of Works in Translation. Let's do this. Jinns by Fatma Aydemir, translated from the German by John Ho Palozzi. Hope the name is correctly pronounced. The protagonist Hussein has worked 30 years in Germany, working hard, more than one job, and providing for his family with 4 amazing children. Now he has enough money to buy that beautiful apartment in Istanbul that he has ever dreamed of, but now his heart gives up. His family rushes to him, and each of his children reflect their relationship to their parents and within the siblings, within the family, on the trip back or to the beautiful city of Istanbul in Turkey. Jinns portrays a family at the end of the 20th century in Europe in all its complexity. It is full of secrets, questions, silence and love, and also an important part actually of German and Turkish contemporary history. It has been compared, similar to Bernardine Evaristo's masterful Girl, Woman, Other, the Booker winner some years ago. Jinns is divided into 6 different chapters where family members tell their stories. So from the form we have a similarity definitely to Bernardine Evaristo here. The Book of Disappearance by Ibrisam Azem, translated from the Arabic by Sinan Anton. This book is about Ala, a young Palestinian who is haunted by his grandmother's memories of being displaced from Jaffa and becoming a refugee in her homeland. Her neighbor is a liberal Zionist, critical of the military occupation of the West Bank and of Gaza, yet faithful to the project of Israel. When he wakes up one morning to find that all Palestinians have suddenly disappeared, have suddenly vanished, Ariel begins searching for clues to the secret of the collective disappearance. Critically acclaimed was this novel already in Arabic in the original version. It is spare but evocative, intensely intelligent in its interplay of perspectives. Eliette, A Normal Life by Dulce Maria Cardoso, translated from the Portuguese by Angel Guria Quintana. Eliette is a normal woman in her early 40s. She's born just after the Carnation Revolution, which happened in 1971-3. She is at a point in her life where she questions about the path she has chosen and wonders if there is something new that might be possible for her. Maybe a new path, maybe a new way in her life. With precise language and also acute psychological insights, Cardoso creates a multifaceted character of great strength. Ironic but by no means distanced, Eliette reflects on an apparently ordinary life against the background of a 3-generation story of the 20th and 21st century in Portugal, which is actually, by the way, one of my favorite countries to travel to, at least in southern Europe. Beautiful country. Too Great a Sky by Liliana Coropsa, translated from the Romanian by Monica Chior. The story of the deportation of Romanians from the region of the Bukovina, an exercise in historical memory which demonstrates how to maintain humanity in impossible conditions. The narration is interspersed with songs that transform into poems and prayers spoken in the past that become prayers in the present. What links the narration is not so much a plot as it is the reader's astonishment. How can the protagonist Anna survive such a series of experiences and do so with her mind and heart intact? A history of cruelty and trauma lies behind the banal markers of contemporary life. These realizations combine in the central theme of the book, one of which the narrator states as stories bring you youth. Last Date in El Zapotal by Mateo García Elizondo, translated from the Spanish by Robin Myers. A junkie has gone to El Zapotal to die, to rent a room in this crumbling backwater, melt into one last fix, and not come back. For someone so ready to no longer be alive, though, he can't stop clinging to the past. His old dog, Kit, who he abandoned. His love, Valerie, who he introduced to drugs. There is no such thing as a good memory. It sounds like a hypnotic and dark plot from this Mexican writer. What Kingdom by Fine Graubel, translated from the Danish by Martin Aitken. Fine Graubel's narrator dreams of furniture flickering to life, a chair that greets you, shiny tiles that follow a peculiar grammar, or a bookshelf that can be thrown on like an apron. Obsessed with the way items rise up out of their thingness, assuming personalities and private motives, the nameless narrator lives in a temporary psychiatric care unit for young people in Copenhagen, in Denmark. The Lantern of Lost Memories by Sanaka Hiragi, translated from the Japanese by Jesse Kirkwood. The book plays in a photography studio in the mountains between this world and the next. You wake up, and a kind man will hand you a hot cup of tea, and gently he will explain that, having reached the end of your life, you have one final task, you have one final thing to do, one final exercise. You get one photography for every day of your life, and now you must choose the pictures that capture your most treasured memories, which will be placed in a beautiful lantern. Once completed, it will be set spinning, and your cherished moments will flash before your eyes and guiding you to another world. Each photo has a treasured story to tell, from the old woman rebuilding a community in Tokyo after a disaster to the flawed Yakuza man who remembers a time when he was kind and a strong child who is fighting to survive. Under the Eye of the Blackbird by Hiromi Kawakami, translated from the Japanese again by Asa Yoneda. We stay in Japan for the next book because there's so many translations from the Japanese actually. In the distant future, humans are on the verge of extinction and have settled in small tribes across the planet under the observation and care of mothers. Some children are made in factories from cells of rabbits and dolphins. Some live by getting nutrients from water and light like plants. The survival of the race depends on the interbreeding of these and other alien beings, but it is far from certain that connection, love, reproduction, and evolution will persist among the inhabitants of this faltering new world. Unfolding over 14 interconnected episodes spanning geological eons, at once technical and pastoral, mournful and utopic, Under the Eye of the Big Bird presents an astonishing vision of the end of our species as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. We Do Not Part by Han Kang, translated from the Korean by Lee Jae-won and Paige Anya Morris. I included two of many well-known authors into my prediction list, who published English translations between last year May and this year's April. The first one is from a Nobel laureate, from the last year's Nobel laureate actually, from Han Kang from South Korea. Blurring the boundaries between dream and reality, We Do Not Part powerfully illuminates a forgotten chapter in Korean history, buried for decades, bringing to light the lost voices of the past to save them from oblivion. Both a hymn to an enduring friendship and an argument for remembering is the story of profound love in the face of unspeakable violence, and a celebration of life, however fragile it might be. The Colony by Annika Norlin, translated from the Swedish by Alice E. Olsson. Burned out from a demanding job and a bustling life in the city, Emily has left town to spend a few days in the countryside. Once there, in the peaceful, verdant hills down by the river in the beautiful country of Sweden, she encounters a mysterious group of 7 people, each with personal stories full of pain, alienation, and the longing to live differently. They are misfits, each in their own way, and all led by the enigmatic and charismatic Sara. How did they end up there? Are they content with the rigid roles they've been assigned? And another question, what happens when an outsider appears and is initially drawn to their alternative lifestyle but cannot help but stir things up a bit? These are the questions that this novel is going to answer. Bad Habit by Alana S. Portero, translated from the Spanish by Mara Faye Letham. Told in an irresistible, heart-trending voice, Bad Habit takes us deep into the lives of the residents of a god-forsaken Madrid neighborhood, ironically named after a holy saint. An unnamed young trans woman grows up in a working-class suburb that has no place for her. She discovers community and also kinship in downtown Madrid amid a lively party scene animated by junkies, pop divas, and fallen angels. But with each step she takes forward, she finds herself confronted by a violence she does not yet know how to counter. In this thrilling and yet often terrifying world, each choice can truly be a matter of life and death. I read this book last year and it still resonates with me, and I really hope it will be on the long list, which will be published next week, of the International Booker Prize. Living in Your Light by Abdella Taya, translated from the French by Emma Ramadan. Malika's first husband was sent by the French to fight in Indochina. The novel takes place from 1954 to 1999, from French colonization to the death of King Hassan II. In the 1960s in Rabat, Morocco, she does everything possible to prevent her daughter Khadija from becoming a mate in a rich French woman's villa. The day before the death of Hassan II, a young homosexual thief, Jafar, enters her home and wants to kill her. Malika recounts with rage her strategies to escape the injustices of history, to survive and to have a little space of her own. The Empusium by Olga Tokarczuk, translated from the Polish by Antonia Lloyd-Jones. The second big name on my prediction list is, of course, Polish Nobel laureate Olga Tokarczuk. In September 1913, Mieczysław Wojnitz, a student suffering from tuberculosis, arrives at Wilhelm Opitz's guest house for gentlemen, a health resort in what is now Western Poland. Every day, its residents gather in the dining room to imbibe the hallucinogenic local liquor, to obsess over money and status, and to discuss the great issues of the day. Will there be a war, monarchy, or democracy? Do devils exist? Are women inherently inferior? Meanwhile, disturbing things are beginning to happen in the guest house and its surroundings. As stories of shocking events in the nearby highlands reach the man, a sense of dread is building. Someone or something seems to be watching them and attempting to infiltrate their world. Little does Mieczysław realize, as he attempts to unravel both the truths within himself and the mystery of the sinister forces beyond, that they have already chosen their next target. A century after the publication of one of the greatest novels in world literature history, The Magic Mountain by the German author Thomas Mann, Olga Tokarczuk revisits Mann's territory and lays claim to it, blending horror, story, comedy, folklore, and feminist parable with brilliant storytelling, and that's how we know her. I want to mention 8 books in the end that have been published in the time span that makes them eligible for the International Booker Prize. 8 books by 8 amazing international heavyweight authors. I don't believe we will see more than 2 big names on the long list, but instead of Han Kang and Olga Tokarczuk, who are on my long list, it could very well be Claudia Pinheiro or Yoko Ogawa or anyone else of these authors. So here is the mention list of international heavyweight authors that could compete for the Booker International Prize. That is The City and Its Uncertain Walls by Haruki Murakami, Our City That Year by Gitanjali Sri, Hersht 07769 by Laszlo Krasznahorkai, A Sunny Place for Shady People by Mariana Enriquez, Time of the Flies by Claudia Pinheiro, Minus Matchbox by Yoko Ogawa, Annihilation by Michel Houellebecq, and finally Vanishing World by Sayaka Murata. It is interesting that there are many books by Japanese authors, I mentioned that earlier, that are eligible for the International Book of this year, and I really would be interested in some statistics about which languages actually dominate the publishing of translated works in the United Kingdom and in Ireland. If any one of you knows something more about this, tell me in the comments down below. Once the long list comes out, and it surprisingly might be not fully identical to my predictions, I will curate a reaction video about the list and as usual highlight the works that spark my interest the most. Until then, I'm yours truly, and goodbye.